Hari Hari. Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Tonight we'll start with the Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the mantra called the Maha Mantra. It has names of the Supreme, and in the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, transcendental sound vibration is the connecting factor. There's a way in which there's sound in the spiritual world and there's sound in the material world. The sound in the material world is enervating. That is, it diminishes our energy and enthusiasm, gradually leads to procrastination and depression. Whereas the sound in the spiritual world is uplifting. So much so that by hearing the sounds of the spiritual world, which are imported in capsules called mantras, one can ingest them and feel for oneself a direct connection with the spiritual energy, because that's what it is. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the quintessential book on Bhakti Yoga, the teaching of Sutta Goswami, he says that by directly connecting with the Supreme, Krishna, one gets immediate benefits. Two of those that he mentions are detachment from bad habits. Although habits are hard to give up, especially bad ones. And where does the strength come from in the first place, one might ask? Well, Sutta Goswami answers that it comes from Krishna. And how do we connect to Krishna? Through the process of yoga. Yoga means to connect. And the most direct way to connect is by the sound vibration. And in his doctrine of the sacred sound of the name of God, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu points out that the name is what identifies us. For instance, in this world, if somebody calls out your name or says your name in a crowded room, let's just say everyone's talking, and over the hubbub you hear your name, then suddenly, what to speak of if you went on vacation to a far-flung place and you just happen to be walking down in an isolated part of town, and someone leaned out from the second-story window and called out your nickname. Does anybody here have a nickname? Okay, you don't have to tell me. But if someone said your nickname, then you would have an instantaneous sense that somebody here knows me. Because the name is the identifier, and the nickname means somebody who's very confidential is identifying me. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught about transcendental sound and the particular effects of it, it's not in a general way, but a very specific way. Specific means that we all have a relationship with the complete whole, of which we are a part. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamai vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana, manakshastan indriyani prakritistani karshati. He mentions that all the living beings are parts of me. And when the living beings are focused on the material energy, the external energy, and in that state they're not seeing the energy's connection with the complete whole. That's possible for the little parts. They can become disoriented. This is a condition called illusion, or avidya, being in ignorance. And this causes fear and struggle, strife of all kinds. So the first effect is overcoming bad habits. It's a phenomena called vairagya, which means that the normal kind of attachment I feel for temporary things, which bring what's called in the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu flickering happiness. It's called chapala sukha. It's here and then gone, here and then gone. So I develop the strength to overcome those things by chanting. These are only concomitant, or they're not the main purpose of chanting, but they happen naturally and one can look for them. And the other is that one comes to a proper orientation of oneself in this universe and an understanding of what one's purpose of life is, and a clearer understanding of one's identity as being different from the body. And this is called gyan, or knowledge. As Krishna defines in the Bhagavad Gita, a person who is in knowledge is one who knows the difference between him or herself and the external body. Both the gross material body, the skeleton, the organs and so forth, and the subtle body or the psychic body that we all have. We have two bodies. So by chanting, one will experience this for oneself. There is a science behind it. One can study the science. One could also simply chant, appreciate the aesthetics of it, and have a modicum of faith in the understanding that there may be some special benediction from chanting, in which case one can let one's guard down and just chant. And it'll be effective that way also, even if you don't have complete knowledge of the science of sound and the difference between material and spiritual world. The chanting itself will bring one to that realization. So we'll start off with a couple of Sanskrit prayers, and then we'll go into the call and response process called Sankirtan. Kirtan means to sing the names of the Supreme, and Sankirtan means to do it together. And the way it works together is someone, and I volunteer, will sing the mantra out loud, solo, and then everyone else, if you'd like to volunteer, you can listen, and then you can sing it back, repeat, and we'll go back and forth. Does that sound reasonable? Yes. Sound doable? Yes. Let's try. So you don't have to chant the first two mantras if you don't know them, because they're slightly complicated, but you can just listen. And the Hare Krishna mantra, you'll probably have a really easy time with. It's 16 words, 32 syllables. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sankirtan ki, Shri Harinam Maha Mantra ki, Shri Harinam Prabhu ki, Go Premanande, Nitai Gaura Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaura Hari Before continuing our conversation, I offer my respects to the founder Acharya, the main teacher of the Krishna consciousness movement, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who in each one of the ISKCONs, which stands for International Society for Krishna Consciousness, sits upon this special seat called a Vyasasana, which means that one is representing the tradition and the message that's passed down from one's spiritual master to disciple through a chain, a disciplic succession. The person who sits on the seat doesn't consider him or herself to be royal, but considers him or herself to be a representative. So just as in ancient times there was a viceroy, and the viceroy would go on behalf of the king to a particular place as a functionary, and would receive all of the same respect as the king, but never thought, oh, I'm the king. So that's the position. And I offer my respects to all of you who are on the spiritual path, fellow travelers from near and far. Hare Krishna. So the process of spiritual practice as taught by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is in stages, because everyone is in a particular position in one's life, and we can't act artificially. We have to be who we are and have principles to apply that will be effective. Does that sound reasonable so far? Yes. So, one of the principles, as mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the fundamental text that teaches the process of bhakti yoga, or the general practice of spirituality, how to live a spiritual life. In it, Krishna talks first about how we can have an understanding that we're just passing through this world. We're not here permanently. We don't have to try so hard or save a lot of money for being cryogenically frozen, because this body will be replaced. Just as we were provided this body without really asking for it, we just sort of showed up. So similarly, there is arrangement already in nature for material facility. And we see it in nature already, that squirrels, somebody corrected me the other day, I was writing a piece and I think I got a little too poetical or romantic about the squirrels, and I said that they don't work. They just collect persimmons in the winter and peaches in the summer, and they live a happy life. And she said, one of my editors, that's not true. They struggle out there. So, all right, they have to work a little bit, California squirrels, but they do get a free coat in the winter, and there's always something around. They didn't get a degree in anything, and they figure out somehow or other how to live outside, which is doesn't sound so easy to somebody who grew up in a house. And same true with all living entities. There's a modicum of material facility for everybody. And when we come into this life, we may think that I'm my body, and therefore I'm an American, or I'm an Indian, or Canadian, or Australian, or an African. But the first teaching Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita is that we're not any of these designations. We're a non-designated entity. That is, that we're spiritual. We don't belong to the material world. Sometimes it's called the world of names. And as an example, there are lots of names of sporting teams. I don't want you to mention any of them because I don't want anybody to get too excited about their team. But the fact is that these are arbitrary names. People just make them up. And they can be changed at any times. I will mention one. There was the Brooklyn Dodgers, and everyone got upset when they moved to Los Angeles. And it's not even the same players, but there's a designation of a team name. So just that they're team names, and they're quite arbitrary. So I have a name also that was given to me at birth, and that was arbitrary. They just sat around, my parents, and thought it up. What do you want to call them? I don't know. What do you want to call them? All these designations are changing constantly, including the body. And so Krishna points this out early on in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says that we're changing our bodies all the time. In real time, we're not ever the same body we were even a second ago, because we're fluid. We're in motion. Just as a river's in motion, the Mississippi River, Mississippi, Mississippi, is designated. It's a body of water. It's not the same ever, nor has it ever been the same. You can't step in the Mississippi River, the same Mississippi River twice, right? Because it's changing, although we say that's the Mississippi River. Same thing with the body. This body is a river, really, of water. It's 75% water, maybe 78% if you're hydrated properly. And it's constantly in flux. And I may designate it a certain way, and as an American or with a particular name, but that's not exactly who I am, even though I identify with it. What to speak of the fact that it's measurable how much we change. When I was a kid, we used to have in one doorway a place where my brother and I would stand, and they would put a book or something and then mark a line. And we'd come back a couple months later and they'd mark it again. We could see that it kept moving. So the body's always moving, always changing. So this is the first thing Krishna says to Arjuna, that the designated body you have right now is not you. You're the passenger in the body, but you're not the body. And he says that a person who comes to spiritual realization, and it doesn't matter what culture or what tradition one's from, is somebody who comes, first of all, to understand this fact: I'm not my body. And then, if a person develops this, he says, he or she will be tolerant. So this is a theme throughout the Bhagavad Gita: tolerance. It's called Chitikshiva. Everyone please say Chitikshiva. Chitikshiva. Chitikshiva means tolerant. And so there's a way that we have to tolerate the changes because they're thrust upon us, basically. Because we're in a changing world. And although I wouldn't like things to change, they're constantly changing. What to speak of the body, or most of all the body, because it's constantly in flux. And then Krishna makes this astounding statement that just as we're changing from boyhood or girlhood to youth to old age, so similarly, we change into another body at death. That's not the most astounding part of it. That's sort of something we can observe for ourselves, right? Of course, maybe changing into another body at death is not commonly known or understood. And so he says at the end of that statement that a person who's spiritually advanced is not disturbed by that change. So that's the part I feel is astounding, because I get disturbed by even small changes in weather, or if my finances fluctuate, or what other fluctuations annoy you? What? Your grades? If your grades fluctuate? That can be quite annoying, because, it's kept in a record book somewhere, and then they look at it later and go, like, how come you had these fluctuations? Any other fluctuations that bother you? Yes? Running out of good food. Although I haven't seemed to have that problem lately. The mind fluctuates too. Have you noticed the mind? Some days you're in a good mood, and other times it's just you feel like you're a beastly person towards everybody. Somebody says, "Why are you so beastly?" And you say, "I don't know. It's just my mind changed." Mood swing, anytime can happen. So all these changes are going on. So Krishna says the first sign of spiritual advancement is the spiritual practitioner isn't disturbed by these changes. But then there's a really big change that comes, which is that you have to give up this present body that you may have invested a lot in. Have you invested much in your body? In what ways? Let's name 3 ways you've invested. Yes? Work. Yeah, it's a lot of work. In fact, it's from the time you're born, parents are waiting, and they go, "Come on, grow up, and go to school now," because we have a college fund for you, if you're lucky, and we want you to get a good job, and then you got to work. Okay, what else have you invested in your body? Food? Pretty much every day? Food, sleep, clothes. Clothes takes probably the most work. Which ones to wear? Look in front of the mirror. Is that right? No, it's a little too short. Take it back. That's $100 to alter that. All right, go ahead. I'll have to work harder. So there's changes that go on all the time. But the change, Krishna says, we leave this body, and that's a pronounced type of change, leaving this body. You go to a new neighborhood altogether. Of course, we're not really sure where that is when we leave it. It's arranged for us, just like the squirrels have an arrangement for their coat, so we have an arrangement for our new body. So the point is that a person who becomes spiritually aware through the practice of yoga then becomes tolerant of these changes, because he or she sees it's superfluous to my actual nature. I'm not changing, only my external environment is changing. That includes the body and the mind. And even at the time when I leave this body, step out of this body and into another one, I'm still not disturbed. This is a person who's able to do this is called Dhira. It's spelled Dhira. Dhira. You pronounce the H. T, like that. Try. Dhira. Dhira. So one of the effects of chanting Hare Krishna, as I mentioned before, is that you become able to give up bad habits, and also along with that you develop this quality of being dhira. You're not upset by changes. Things change. Wait a minute, I thought that I was supposed to get into this school, and it didn't work out. School closed down. Turned out there was a Ponzi scheme, and it all collapsed. Whatever it may be, you can make up anything, because there's combinations and permutations of all kinds of things that happen in this world that create change, but a person who is dhira isn't disturbed by them. So this is the first teaching that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita. First, and these two go together, you're not your body, The body is a designation, so is your name, and especially so is your sporting team. Don't get all bent out of shape because your team lost. Okay? Say yes. Yes. Promise? Yes. From now on, starting in 2022, you're dhira, you're undisturbed. Doesn't matter which country wins, right? Say yes. Yes. I'm not convinced. Yes. All right. So start there, and you could work on all the other parts of your life and see that actually these are designations. Not that you have to do it artificially, but it is good to know the basic understanding, and then gradually become more identified with your spiritual identity, which is as a soul. And I'll say one more thing, because I want to say the positive thing. Positive thing is, and the good news is, that you don't die. And you've always existed, and you always will exist. Good news, right? Yes. So there is an occupation for the soul. And it's eternal occupation. And also the soul is described as being blissful, full of knowledge, and eternality. And so as one identifies more and more as the soul, which is our real identity, then we become happy, we become well-adjusted, and impervious to the changes of the world, for the most part. So before I go to the next lesson of the Bhagavad Gita, let's have a few questions. Question means there's a question mark at the end, and if it's a good question, it takes us deeper into the subject matter and doesn't throw us into another universe. Yes, Prabhu. Microphone is guaranteed in 7 seconds or less, or your money back from today's entrance fee from the class.
Hare Krishna. My question is, how can we experience that I am not changing? So, bodily level is changing, mind is changing, but it is said that the soul doesn't change. But how can I experience that? Hare Krishna.
You can observe it by looking at some of your baby pictures. If your mom saved anything for you, and I guarantee you she did, there's a box somewhere in her house. And if you go through it, you're going to find the ribbons you won when you were a kid at school. You won a few, right? No? Yes, you did. He's just being humble. He probably won it for calculus when he was in kindergarten. And then there's, for your cricket match, you won, and so forth. And you can look back and you can look at all those and just line them up and see that we're constantly changing bodies and become aware. This is the example that Krishna gives. He says that Komaran Yovanam Jara, that we go from Komara, which means childhood, to a youth to old age. But we can look back and see how that change is happening. And then he says, there's going to be another change. Just like the other changes, just like you gave up your baby's body. So similarly, you're going to give up whatever body you have at a particular point, and you're going to get another body, another material body. Not you guys, you'll get a spiritual body. Thank you. What a good question. Important question. You can also be introspective and notice, for instance, that the body is automatic. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about a person who is sakshi, means a witness, and notices how the body's moving all the time, and the limbs are doing things. For instance, one of the obvious things is digestion. I always marvel at the digestion, especially mine, because I have an unlimited appetite, and I just eat, and then everything else is done. Never once have I studied digestion. I didn't major in it, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't understand it very much. I remember a few experiments in lab about some kind of hormones or reactions that take place are very difficult to understand. It's all done automatically. One can notice for oneself that the digestion is going on. I have nothing to do with it. And how about the heart? Have you ever had a meeting with your heart? I did once. I took a nap for 21 minutes, and then I was lying on my left side, and as I was coming back into the awakened consciousness, I started becoming aware of my heart. And I had this feeling of gratitude, and I said, thank you. I never thanked you, actually, after all these years. You've been beating and going on, and that's keeping me going, and thanks. And then my heart spoke back to me and said, well, you're welcome, but I'm just doing my duty, and I could stop at any minute. So then I got off the couch and I sat up. I thought, I better get busy. Because everything's going on in the universe, including our body, which is part of the universe, in an automatic way. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it's on automatic. So you might notice your digestion, you might notice your heart beating, even breathing. I mean, we can't stop breathing, actually. If you try it right now, go ahead. I'll time you. You give 10 seconds to see if you can stop breathing. Hold on. Go. Okay, that was 2 seconds over here. Okay, that's 10. You want to go another 10? Yeah? A lot of swimmers in here. Divers. 20, still good? Another 10? No? Okay, do breathe if you have to. Krishna's very determined, though. He's sitting here. I think he's a deep sea diver. 31, 34. Don't hurt yourself now. Okay. 40 seconds. That's about it. Of course, if you're practiced at it, maybe a couple of minutes or longer. But that's about it. You'll have to start breathing again. There's a breathing machine on your chest. It's going. You can't stop it. It's automatic. It's a feature of nature. So you can become aware and notice that all these things are going on automatically, what to speak of your thoughts. And if you become introspective and you stop and you watch how there's an influx of thoughts and ideas that come into your mind, and you're just observing them come in. Have you ever had that circumstance where you try to remember somebody's name and goes, what was their name? What was their name? And it just comes in your mind. A few seconds later, it's like, how did I know that? So all these facilities, changes are going on, and we're the observer of them. You can introspect and see that for yourself. You can logically also understand just the way in language. And language is important. It's the way we designate things. We can tell we're designated because I say, my hand. I don't say, I hand. It's not I hand, it's my hand. It's my head, it's my feet. Same thing, it's my car. But I'm not my car, nor am I my hand. I just have a hand right now, which I very much appreciate. Yes, Prabhu. Okay, there's 2 questions, and they're online. And the first one, and I can't see that far anymore. Who is it? It's Bhaktin Shraddha. Okay, good. Go ahead, Bhaktin Shraddha, and then, yes. We should be able to read lips by this time in the pandemic. Some of the audience is pointing out that we can't hear you and they don't know how to read lips yet.
Hare Krishna, looks like you are muted.
Okay, I think I should be audible now. Okay. Please accept my humble obeisances, Guru Maharaj. We read in Bhagavad Gita that we should be equipoised And especially at the time of death, we do understand it that the soul is migrating. It's just the body that is changing. When it happens to somebody else, like friends or far-fetched relatives, we can still adjust to the situation. But a situation like that, when it happens in an immediate family, or maybe when it's time for my own parents, how can we keep that same composure that we have at the time when people not so closely related to? We can very well understand. Almost, I feel like giving them a lecture on this, that it's just the body that's gone, and so on and so forth. So at that point in time, how can we keep ourselves composed and fixed on the principles of Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, well, it's not easy because we're deeply attached to mother and father and other relatives, friends, and so forth. So it's a process. However, if you're fortified with knowledge, you'll know what to do. And I've seen this many times. Well, my god sister had become a full-time devotee when she was in, her early 20s. And her family, especially one of her brothers, took exception to it, that she wasn't around for the family for a long time. And later, much later, her mother was dying. And she, the devotee, went home to be with her mother for the last couple of months. And the rest of the family found it very difficult to be there. I saw this also to some degree in my family when my mother was leaving, that we kind of camped out in my mom's house because it was an important juncture. And fortunately, she gave us permission, was into it, but a lot of other relatives said, you take over from here, we don't want to see this. They didn't know how to deal with it. And so I was comparing notes, because it just so happened I took my parents' ashes to India to commit to a sacred river at the same time my god sister did, and we rented the same boat to put ashes at the same time. And she was telling her story, I was telling mine, and she was saying how she went home to take care of her mother at that time, and that the relatives, including the brother who she had become estranged from because he took exception to her extreme spiritualism, especially in her youth. And she knew what to do. She had so much composure because she had studied the science. And although she had compassion, she didn't just tell everybody, hey, she's not her body. It doesn't really matter. On the contrary, actually, she showed more compassion, but at the same time, she was steady as she did it because she had eyes of knowledge of what was actually happening. And this is something Krishna brings up in the Bhagavad Gita, yatanto yoginas chayanam pashyantyatman yavastitam, yatanto pyakritatmano nainam pashyantya chetasaha. He says in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that if somebody has cultivated this understanding that you're not your body, and others aren't their body either, and one sees what's going on at the time of death through eyes of knowledge. Whereas if you haven't studied it, he said, then you don't see what's going on, and it's very disturbing. People don't know what to do. So after she had taken care of her mother and seen her off, so to speak, her brother and other family members came to her and said, now we understand after all these years. We were to be with her during her life. You were the only one qualified to be with her when she was leaving her body. I thought that was an interesting way to put it. And you see that oftentimes, that people will come to appreciate that the person who has cultivated this throughout his or her life will have a certain kind of composure when others, including loved ones, are leaving their bodies. Composure doesn't mean coldness. It means there's a deep compassion, but there's a kind of stoicism in the sense that one has a clear understanding of what to do and what's actually happening, and there's a calming effect on it. As far as the devotee goes, devotees also feel, at least I can speak for myself, when my mother and father died, although I'd cultivated Krishna consciousness for decades, I still felt it. Somebody asked me, how are you doing? I said, I feel like somebody just beat me up. I walked around the wrong corner and 3 people pounded on me for a while. That's how I feel. That's how I felt. And I compare it to like if you cut your hand or something like that. It's not that it doesn't bleed just because you're a devotee. So we have a psychic body also. And although we have a higher perspective and an understanding of who we are and who others are, loved ones and so forth, if we're cut psychically, we also bleed a little bit. But we also know how to process it as well. And there's ways of getting closure. And in fact, I find in my life, and this was told to me by godbrothers who were way senior to me. Of course, my parents were really old when they had me, so my parents passed away a little earlier in my life than some people. But he said it's like, actually in your spiritual path, being around when people leave before you can be very eye-opening and inspiring, not confusing and demoralizing. And I found that to be true also. It felt like tent posts coming out. You know the part I was talking about the world of names? I remember my spiritual master, he had written poetry after he had taken sannyas, become a monk when he was older, renounced the world, and then he was writing poetry, and in one of it he was saying, remembering all his relatives who had already passed, he said, now they're only a list of names. And so as the tent posts come out and you see that actually people are just passing through, you start to also, the philosophy that we're talking about right now solidifies. There's a strong realization of it. It's hard to know until it happens how well you'll process it, but you will. Because I always wondered, although I lived a life in Krishna consciousness, how will I handle it when my parents leave? And then I found out. And everything gets integrated when it's a holistic, spiritual life is holistic. You have to take in everything that's happening. You don't isolate incidents from the material world. Side by side, you have to integrate them into your life and then process them through eyes of knowledge. And when you do that, you become stronger and able to walk in the world with compassion, but also in a reasonable way, understanding what's really going on. Does that help, Bhakti and Shraddha?
Yes, Guru Maharaj,
Okay.
that does.
I'm so happy.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, there was Vatsalya? Vatsala.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my heartfelt obeisances. My question is mind more related to the body or is mind more related to the soul? And what are the possible things that the soul carries from past life to this life or would carry in further life too? If mind is related to the body and not to the soul, then how is soul carrying all that memory?
What an excellent question. I'll answer it with an example of a smartphone. Because a smartphone has software and it also has hardware and it also has a user. So in that analogy, the body, the hardware is right here. You got bones and blood and so forth. So the earth, water, fire, air, ether, these are, earth, water, fire, air are gross elements. And they're definitely in here. Because if you've ever burned a body or watched one burn and you get the result, it's a box of, kind of looks like dirt from your backyard. And you can't sell it on eBay, even for $3.52. It's just chemicals. And so that's the gross body. And then the subtle body is, as I mentioned before, the psychic body. That's like the software that runs the body. That's called the mind, the intelligence, and the ego. Those are three. designated elements of the subtle body. So we have two bodies, two physical bodies actually. One's gross and the other's subtle. And when we, the soul, the operator of the body, that animates the mind and the intelligence, that's what makes it look like it's alive, because we're there. Like if you have a stained glass window, it looks dead until you put a light on it, and then you go, whoa, look at that. Look at all the patterns. So when we leave the body, we have a subtle body that goes with us. Back to the cell phone. When somebody's cell phone breaks, you don't freak out, because all they have to do is go get another one. And as we all know, because we're from Silicon Valley, you were smart enough to back everything up, right? You just put it back on the hardware and you're ready to go again. So in a similar way, when we leave this body, we take with us the software. It's downloaded and it comes with us. And that's why we have propensities and characteristics that begin to manifest as we become conscious of our body. Everyone has their own nature. And those are the impressions that we've accumulated in our software, like apparatus called the mind and the intelligence, over many lifetimes, which means that it's all in there. So we have those impressions since a time immemorial, traveling from one physical body to the next. So the answer is, we're actually not permanently connected to the mind or the body. It only comes with us while we're in the material environment. We, the soul, have nothing to do with matter, actually. Asango hyayam purusha. We have no association or connection to it. In a dream, you might have a connection to a tiger. And you'll be sleeping, and then your roommate will be looking, and your eyes, rapid eye movement is going more and more, and then maybe your breathing picks up, and maybe twitching, because you're trying to run from the tiger. But your roommate doesn't see any tiger, you see tiger. So the mind conjures many different kinds of circumstances, ideas, perspectives, and we go through many different machinations because of what we're watching on our mind's screen. Satisfied? Okay,
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
next time you'll have to play us a tune on one of those guitars.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I will.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, did anybody want to ask one more question? There's another one on the board.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I'm Rajiv from Japan.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa. Yes, Guru Maharaj. Shashuri this name. Yes. Guru Maharaj, you quoted the verse regarding the duality, and you talked about the dhira, getting dhira. So I was wondering, this is only we can get this state by only spiritual practice, or also our family atmosphere where we grown up, or also has some some effect, because probably I am doing this spiritual practice since long, but still I react with when the Bhagavad Gita said the matras tontyo shitushna shaku dokada. So when the atmosphere changes, we usually react with that particular point. So I don't see particularly in my case, I don't see any improvement. Like I'm still reacting with the when the situation changes. So how can I improve? Or another question is, it is only
Wait, one at a time, one question at a time. So yes, there's nurture nature, of course. There's a way that we may be born into because of our karma. We may naturally have propensities towards being more patient than others because of the modalities we've acquired. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. Quoting from the Bhagavad Gita for authenticity. So in the Gita, Krishna says that as we move about the world in one life or another, we're associating ourselves in various ways by the choices that we make. And because of that, we acquire the modalities of nature. And those are defined in the Bhagavad Gita as goodness, passion, and ignorance. And they induce us to act in certain ways. And so if somebody's born in a family that's more towards goodness, sattva, and let's say they have parents that are very patient and so forth, then it's likely that such a person in that environment will naturally have that quality because they're more tinged by goodness. Whereas somebody else, maybe they're in a passionate environment and they learn it from their parents, everything comes on, then the kids pick that up and it just becomes part of their psyche. So it does matter, the environment that we're in and who we learn from. That's part of the nature that we acquire because of our associations, and we take birth in that way. And we can improve ourselves by improving our associations, even in this life. Therefore, Krishna recommends in the Bhagavatam, 11th canto especially, he devotes a whole chapter to talking about cultivating sattva, being around sattvic people, having sattvic habits in one's life. That's a whole other topic. But if you do that, then there's ways in which that you'll start to notice the change. I always notice when I associate with various types of friends, for instance, on traveling trips, I'll go away and I'll be around somebody for a month, let's say. Stop in, pick them up in another country, we go to India, we go here and there and everything, come back and then someone will say, hey, you're acting like such and such. Have you ever noticed that? And you pick up the qualities from people. So one of the most important ways that we can improve ourselves is by finding good association and then being around those people that already have the qualities. They tend to get in us. Daijoubu desu ka?
Hi, yes, Guru Maharaj, I think you already answered my second question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to see you. Hare Krishna. Jai. Okay, so now we're having an offering. Are you ready? Okay, so we, at this time of year, those of you who are here the first time, you're kind of in luck. You came at a special time. Just explain quickly. Every year, we have an overarching goal and mission to distribute a certain number of Bhagavad Gitas and other books to people, and because it's a good idea, because it's an important book for people to read and just adjust their lives accordingly. So we're going to have a ritual that we do here every couple of months, but this is the big one because it's the end of the year, beginning of the next year. We're reporting the end of the year. So what we're going to do in just about a minute is put all the seats back, roll up this carpet, and then we're going to make an arc around Prabhupada's Vyasasan because we're essentially offering him the results of our work throughout the whole year. And there's a couple of leaders that have written it all down, and they're going to read it all out. Is that correct? Okay, so when I say 3, everyone stand up and we'll move all the things and then come back. And then the main test where you win actual points is if within a couple of seconds after we put everything away, we can go dead quiet. Let's see if we can do it. On your mark, cassette, go.
His Grace Vaisesika Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. 3, 2, 1.
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept our most humble obeisances at the dust of your lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace. We are gathered here to offer the results of our 2021 Prabhupada Marathon Monthly Sankirtan Festival titled Live to Give 21 Prabhupada Marathon. From Prabhupada's arrival address at Los Angeles, June 20, 1975. I have no personal qualification, but I simply try to satisfy my Guru. That's all. My Guru Maharaj asked me that if you get some money, you print books. So there was a private meeting, talking, some of my important god brothers also there. It was in Radhakund. So Guru Maharaj was speaking to me that since we have got this Bagh Bazaar marble temple, there has been so many dissensions and everyone thinking who will occupy this room or that room, that room. I wish, therefore, to sell this temple and the marble and print some book. Yes, so I took up this from his mouth, that he is very fond of books. And he told me personally that if you get some money, print books. Therefore, I'm stressing on this point. Where is book? Where is book? Where is book? So kindly help me. This is my request. Print as many books in as many languages and distribute throughout the whole world. Then Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, Text 36. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. A Krishna conscious being is always engaged in planning how to take all suffering humanity back home, back to Godhead. Even if one is not successful in reclaiming all the fallen souls back to Godhead, still, because he is Krishna conscious, his path to Vaikuntha Loka is open. He personally becomes qualified to enter the Vaikuntha Lokas, and if anyone follows such a devotee, he also enters into Vaikuntha Loka. Vaishnavas, who are servants of the Lord, come forward in the actual field of work in Krishna consciousness to reclaim fallen souls. Only Krishna conscious persons are eligible to enter into the spiritual world. That is clearly stated in this verse and is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, wherein the Lord says that there is no one dearer to him than those who preach the gospel of Bhagavad Gita in the world. With the blessings of His Grace Vaisesika Prabhuji and Her Grace Nirukala Mataji, Bhakti community continued to inspire newcomers to pursue Bhakti through various weekly programs this MSF. Bhakti community has now grown to 280 members who participate from around 10 countries across North America, South America, Australia, Europe, and Asia. Bhakti On, which is an engaging program attended by over 50 participants, continues to inspire newcomers by explaining Bhakti philosophy and practices. Bhakti Circle is a systematic 32-week program in which newcomers join small groups to discuss Bhakti Yoga topics and develop spiritual friendships. The first batch of Bhakti Circle newcomers would be graduating in 2 weeks. Success Sadhana continues to inspire corporate newcomers who find much needed spiritual nourishment through this program. They view it to be like an oasis in between their stressful work life. The program is attended by 75 participants from over 10 corporations across North America. After meeting every week for the past 15 months, the Women's Circle completed the entire Bhagavad Gita discussion today morning. Participants were very grateful for the simplified concepts explanation, attractive slides, and non-judgmental encouragement. Women's Circle now plans to take up women-related beginner topics from other scriptures such as Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti community conducted a women's-only retreat in December called Journey to Inner Transformation, with the mission that the participants will be inspired to take up Bhakti lifestyle, have the skills to practice Bhakti Yoga daily, participate in the hands-on workshop for practicing Bhakti Yoga. The retreat helped the women group to develop deeper spiritual friendships and have seen exponential progress in their Bhakti path after this retreat. On the auspicious day of Janmashtami, Comunidad Bhakti was launched to inspire Spanish-speaking newcomers to practice Bhakti. Comunidad Bhakti conducts a weekly Bhakti Circle program that is attended by around 25 newcomers. Bhakti community's sole purpose is to associate newcomers with Vaishnavas so that newcomers can progress in Bhakti. Vaishnava Sangha Lava, or VSL, is a metric that measures how many times a newcomer comes in association with a Vaishnava through a devotional service class. For this MSF, Comunidad Bhakti's goal was to achieve 2,850 Vaishnava Sangha Lavas. We are very happy to report that Comunidad Bhakti surpassed the goal and achieved 2,920 Vaishnava Sangha Lavas. For this MSF, Bhakti Community Silicon Valley's goal was to achieve 1,470 Vaishnava Sangha Lavas. We are very happy to report that Bhakti Community surpassed and smashed the goal and achieved 3,369 Vaishnava Sangha Lavas. This MSF, more than 100 newcomers attended close to 60 Bhakti Community classes. For the year 2021, Bhakti Community Silicon Valley's goal was to achieve 3,528 Vaishnava Sangha Lavas. We are very happy to report that Bhakti Community surpassed and smashed the goal and achieved 9,346 Vaishnava Sangha Lavas. We are eternally indebted and grateful to all the volunteers, room leaders, speakers, mentors, and book distributors who work tirelessly every day to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's mission and spread Krishna consciousness in the Western world. We also want to thank each of our donors who help us maintain the Bhakti community. And finally, our most heartfelt, sincere gratitude to His Grace Vaisesika Prabhuji. It's only due to your presence, leadership, and motivation that Bhakti community exists and is thriving. We pray at the lotus feet of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada to bless the Bhakti community to help spread Lord Chaitanya's mission to every town and village in the Western world. Bhakti community gets the opportunity to serve newcomers due to the tireless efforts of the book distribution team who introduced Bhakti community to these newcomers. Now Shri Krishna Purushottam Prabhuji will present the book distribution results.
Hare Krishna. Goal for this MSF was to accurate at least 120,000 book points, or 60,000 Bhagavad Gita equivalents. Hari Bol. Highlights of the MSFR. In spite of on these uncertain times, Team ISV distributed in many venues. His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu encouraged us by giving live to give success mantra. Assume it can be done in your new grow, the mantra that can change it all. Devotees are encouraged to think out of the box, to adapt these words towards the book distribution with the new ideas. Team ISV Kids course are as follows. They distributed 122 Srimad Bhagavatam sets and 4,277 Bhagavad Gitas. They accrued total of 20,804 book points, and they collected 16,991 Lakshmi points. The Modal Gita continued its book distribution to hotels and motels, and besides, it also placed books at grocery stores, Hindu temples across North America, libraries, and attended trade shows in Orlando and Los Angeles. Devotees also went traveling Sankirtan in South California, Texas, and Florida. The highlights of this year was distribution of assorted books to various organizations. ISV packaging team has come up with a novel way of providing this much needed infrastructure. This MSF team Modal Gita distributed over 23,314 Bhagavad Gitas. Modal Gita also distributed 25,400 SSRs and hundreds of assorted books, occurring total of 93,100 book points. Western Sankirtan team enthusiastically participated by distributing books in many places. In name a few: Indian stores, San Francisco, San Jose airports, restaurants, Stanford Shopping Center, Target stores, Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, Walmart, Fisherman Wharf, Santa Cruz Downtown, Pacifica, Fog Festival, and Great Mall. More than 1,000 Spanish Gitas were placed door to door at a Spanish stores. Spanish and English books in more than 50 stores all over Bay Area, including major cafe chain links, Starbucks, restaurants, gas stations, San Jose Flea Market, and many other Western stores. Two new spots were discovered near Golden Gate Bridge, North Vista Point, and Crispy Field. They also distributed Arabic books and placed thousands of Arabic and Farsi books in the stores all over the Bay Area, Tracy, and Sacramento. Traveling Sankirtan covered Santa Rosa, Aftershock Festival, Sacramento, Las Vegas, Outside Lands, Sacramento State, University of Nevada, Reno, University of California, College Sankirtan in West Valley College in San Jose State, Stanford, Black Friday Harinam in San Francisco downtown, and Christmas in the Park were the huge success. Many Western languages books are shipped to Cambodia. This MSF, they distributed 103 Srimad Bhagavatam sets. And they distributed 12,477 Bhagavad Gitas. That occurred total 44,331, 15 book points, smashing the goal of 41,000 book points last year. They collected total 51,745 in Lakshmi points. ISV Bhagavad Seva project newly launched Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam classes for adults. All launched courses for kids and adults are certified by ISV or Bhaktivedanta Research Center affiliated with Mumbai University. The total number of registrations were 337 for 2021. ISV Corporate Sankirtan did exceptionally well in 2021, and he had a great success in distributing books, distributing through phone calls, emails in corporations, and leveraging the teams, their personal networks. They broke all the previous records, and here is the final scores. Total book points occurred 3,735 book points. Total Lakshmi collected 283 in Lakshmi points. 283.
370,000.
Okay, 370,000 in Lakshmi points. Haribo. Team ISV give the Gita and Prasadam in your neighborhood and distributed thousands of books and cookies by hanging to their doors. This year, Halloween, Christmas, and Thanksgiving were celebrated by giving more than 7,000 cookies. Little Free Library. The Little Free Library team distributed thousands of books by the Bay Area and other parts of the USA. Devotees were enthusiastically took ownership and little free libraries in their area, placing Srila Prabhupada books and refilling them at least twice a year. This MSF, they occurred 3,390 book points. Arabic Sankirtan team, the whole Bay Area, Middle Eastern stores with Srila Prabhupada Mercy. They also traveled Sankirtan, and total they got 15,936 book points, smashing their goal of 15,000 book points last year. By the guidance of His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu, Wisdom of Sages podcast run by His Grace Kaustuba Prabhu and His Grace Raghunath Prabhu continued generously for the Live to Give campaign by sponsoring Bhagavad Gitas in all over the Bay Area. Bhakti SF also contributed a unique way for this MSF. Naveen and Nirad Prabhu distributed books all over North America and many colleges. ISV community donated generously for Sankirtan. The ISV inventory and shipping team worked tirelessly to dispatch thousands of books within the Bay Area and also within North America. As we make this offering of MSF results, we are pleased to report that all the goals have been successfully met, surpassed, and smashed. Final results. All the scores from this MSF was compiled, and here are the summary of final results. In all, more than 370 devotees participated in this marathon. Total book points 216,444 in cents we occurred. Total Lakshmi collected 662,720 333.80 cents. Total Chaitanya Charitamritas we distributed 13. 406 Srimad Bhagavatam sets Team ISV distributed. Total Bhagavad Gitas we distributed 49,069. $20 yearly totals. Total book points, 2021 yearly totals. We are 20. Total book points 500,225, surpassing last year 401,177. Total Lakshmi collected 1,220,505 $4.91. Hari bol, Hari bol, Hari bol, Hari. Hari bol, Hari.
I don't have my glasses.
Oh, sorry. Okay, by request of Andhra. Okay, go ahead, Professor. Okay. So total Lakshmi collected $1,220,554. Surpassing last year 888,720 and 4 cents. Total 496 Chaitanya Charitamrita sets, surpassing last year of 108 Chaitanya Charitamrita. Total Srimad Bhagavatam sets, Team ISV distributed 2,991, surpassing last year 1,831. We are very happy to report that we met that 10% increase in BBT remittance for 2021. We are grateful to each and every devotee at ISV because everyone participated in the MSF either by giving generous donations or by personally distributing books or by giving advice or by encouraging or just extending friendship and good wishes. We are also grateful to our online audience who have also participated in this MSF so actively through their attention and generous donations. Our gratitude to the dedicated ISV Sankirtan devotees who have tirelessly worked hard and smashed these goals. Our deep gratitude to His Grace, Vaisesika Prabhu and Nirukula Mataji for inspiring us this MSF and guiding us to every step of our way. Haribo! Hari bol. We pray to the Lordship, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shriman Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Lakshmi Narsingadev, to shower their blessings upon Team ISV so that we can continue to work with this mood of cooperation to show mercy to all the souls. We are praying to Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to empower us to work as a one team. We need to work together to accomplish Team ISV goals, just as a variety of flowers are offered in a garland to the Lord. Live to give marathon ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Bhagavan ki, Shriman Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Shri Lakshmi Narsingadev Bhagavan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
We'd like to give our special gratitude and appreciation to Jai Madhava Prabhu Pavani Bhakti for their painstaking endeavors to develop the Bhakti community along with the other leaders. Hare Krishna. This is great innovation that is bringing fruits already, because we have the cherished association even today of many of the new participants as of in the last year or so from the Bhakti community. And it's our heartfelt a gratitude for all of you being here today for this special event. Hare Krishna. Special mention to Shraddha Devi Dasi and her huge, ever-growing team for the corporate Sankirtan that always creates some kind of miracle. Our heartfelt gratitude to you and your team. To all the very enthusiastic Sankirtan devotees who are under the good guidance of Malini Devi Dasi and Sri Krishna Purushottam Prabhu, who have given their life and soul to leading the Sankirtan movement and setting an example all over the world. Thank you to all the leaders headed by our two stalwarts. Thank you very much. So far, here at ISV, we've reached every goal from the very beginning. And that's because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the greatest spiritual capitalist. He signs all the checks and makes all the resources. We just have to give our life and soul to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desires to cover the earth with transcendental literature. So thank you very much, everyone here at ISV, for giving your heart and soul in cooperation for the higher purpose of giving mercy to all living entities.
Prabhuji, many years Vaisesika Prabhu is dreaming for this 1 million. This year we achieved. We didn't know till Malini Mataji and also Sri Gopal Prabhu told we crossed 1 million, and we are very grateful because of Prabhu's inspiration and his guidance. This is no temple in North America 1 million crossed, and it's all glories to His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu. Hari.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Is that right? Pani Prasadi Yudhishesha Yavadi Ashaka Dekatari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go Premanandi Haribo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shishimad Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotarasta Shishimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadip Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Chimuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the Samad devotees. All glories to the Samad devotees. All glories to the Samad devotees. Lord Premanande Hari 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 Bol.
Hare Krishna. We just received the news that Malini Mataji's uncle, who is suffering from cancer, is in very critical condition. So we would like all the devotees to pray for her uncle's protection and good health. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की, निताई गौर प्रेमानंद। Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to all the devotees present here. Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley on this historic Sunday feast where we offered our results to Srila Prabhupada and the Guru Parampara that we reached over 1 million in Lakshmi points as Team ISV. Our special gratitude to His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu and Nirukula Mataji for leading us to this historic goal and the expert guidance of our Sankirtan leaders. Today we thank Vaisesika Prabhu for the wonderful class and the Aarti. And Manisha for the Nishingadev prayers. A very special and warm welcome to all our newcomers. Thank you for taking your precious time to be with us today evening. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask myself or Shri Gopal Prabhu here, and we'll be glad and excited to help you. For our Sunday feast, we have one sponsor who is Trina Sutradhara, who is a part of our community. Are you here, Trina? Not here. Oh, please come up. We have some Mahaprasadam sweets, and I can give them to you.
Hare Krishna to everyone. Just pray for me. That's it.
Today, prasadam will be served in to-go boxes only. Please take home prasadam to honor or have it outside. For everyone's safety, please do not eat prasadam inside, and it's a request of the board that we all keep our masks on at all times. Today, we also really need some volunteers to assist with the cleaning so that all the burden doesn't fall on a few devotees. So if you would like to clean, please reach out to Shri Gopal Prabhu and he can point you to the team that is assigned to cleaning. We have...
Hare Krishna. Today's prasadam, the main cooks of today are Srini Prabhu, Kalyani Mataji, Suyash Prabhu, and Mansi Mataji. And today's feast is extra special because it is their first time cooking for over 400 people. So today's prasadam is Radha Vallabh Prabhu's special khichdi, which is really popular in Chaupati. And the rest of the cooks were helped by Hansapriya Mataji, Dana Lakshmi Mataji, Tadiya Seva Prabhu, and Soumya.
A very special announcement is that today is the birthday of Krishangi Gopi Mataji. And if you all don't know her, I can share 3 very special things about her. The first is, on Sundays when you walk in and you see the deities and you see those beautiful garlands that are so articulately made, or so intricately made, they're all led by her and her team. Second is that she is one of the main devotees behind all of the online programs, making sure that the Zoom works, making sure that the audio works. She comes ahead of time to prepare so we can have a beautiful online audience. And the third is, if you ever were lucky to taste her cooking, she's an amazing cook. If you're here, Mataji, present, would you please say a few words? Well, she's cooking, so. Okay, she's coming.
And the fourth is that she and her husband raised Monisha.
Maharaj, whatever we will be of some seva here. It's all by the blessings of Maharaj and the devotees. And we are really ever grateful for your mercy and accepting us being part of this wonderful family. This is my family, and I'm really grateful. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Krishnangi Gopi, we're grateful to you in every way, although you stay behind the scenes and humbly do your service 24/7. You've raised the standard in this temple by your presence. It manifests through everything that you do and touch. For instance, the garlands, I think, are one of the main reasons that this is the most joyful temple that I attend, because of the artistry and the love that goes into it. And you do that in all your work. Thank you very much for setting such a high standard. It's very rare in this whole universe, and we're deeply grateful and impressed, and thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, here you have to sing for your supper. And if this is a prayer, you have to be able to read that too. That first part. To sing the prayer. There's a prayer that says that the tongue, for yogis who are trying to control themselves and become steady devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, senses must be controlled. And of all the senses, the tongue is very difficult to control. However, it's the gateway sense. If you can control the senses, the tongue, you can control all the senses. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying here in this song that this process of Krishna consciousness is so joyful that the way to control the tongue is to take delicious Krishna prasadam. It means food that was lovingly cooked and offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. And by honoring that prasadam, eating it with reverence and appreciation, the tongue becomes automatically controlled, and one makes advancement to the process in the process of pure devotional service. Sharira vijaja jodendriya taheka jive pele visaya shogore dharma jidhi vayati loba moisu durmati Take jeta katita sansare Krishna Bora doyamor Dori bare hiwajar Shaprasha annadilo paha Stayandamrita pa Radha Krishna Gunaga Premi Dako Sri Chaitanya Dihita Premi Dako Sri Chaitanya Dihita Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Pramari Vaishnave Kappa Punya Vatam Raja Vishvaso Navijay Prasade Sarva Dukana Haniraso Pajaya Prasanate Taso Yashu Udpaya Bhutise Vayo Pavitra Saganda Vasavankara Charchita Krishna Bodhino Dasa Kavamayam Jaimahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasade Go Premanande Nitai Gauda Haribo, 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 Nitai Gauda Haribo. Please come take prasadam. Thank you everyone for coming. Please always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna, be a kind friend to all living entities, and be careful because the material world is dangerous. Hare Krishna. Vanchakopadruvisha, Kripasandabevacha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha.